Good evening, friends. Good evening. It is 7:16 on December 21st, and got a little work to do, so I figured I'd go live and just. I'm fiddling with my mic, so that's why things are maybe a little noisy there. So hopefully, some of my YouTube friends will pop around and. So, okay, so we're good news. Actually, I was able to get the rest of the score done on this opening sequence. So I'm really at a bit of a crossroads today. In that, well, I mean, basically, I'm pretty close, not quite there, but I'm pretty close to being at a point where I can release this as a webisode, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, we're talking about the opening first 4-minute sequence of the show, which I thought might be pretty cool to just kind of let out there. And so that's what's going on. So yeah, when I did the live stream, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I did a live stream, and I was probably at about this point in the score. So I'll go ahead and play a little bit of this. I'm leaving the dialogue out at this moment. Yeah, this is kind of where I finished up yesterday, I think. It's always good to listen back to it and review again, just kind of see what can maybe be improved. Now, there was something right there that felt like the timing was a little out.
All. That is all.
So let's see here.
What?
Let me jump ahead. I want to just kind of
sure
set
of
the
it.
end here.
But how? He's loved by...
But I'm a little confused, Asher.
Patience, Melchizedek. Together, they drove Valner from the kingdom. But I don't really see what this has to do with me. I told you, patience, Melchizedek. Vespigi was king, but dark, terrible times lay ahead.
Okay.
But Asher, you really didn't explain anything.
Basically,
No more time.
this shot right here, I want to redo this shot. This was done in Krita, and I think I want to jump this one over to Tahoma. So basically, that's what I'm kind of here to do tonight. So, opened up the shot in Krita 5. And yeah, just not really happy with the ink and paint. So, fortunately, there aren't too many shots left in this opening sequence that need to be redone. Hey, Maria. I distracted you from the lion in winter. Well, you know, Maria, I have that effect on people. I'm just so dynamic and charismatic and fun that I just distract people. So, I will... apologize for that, I guess, but meanwhile, back to work. What we're going to do here, actually, let's just go jump into Tahoma. So we're going to do this way. I'm going to go ahead and smack in this background shot. Over here in Krita, looks like there's only 32 frames of animation, so it's not a very long shot. So let's save this as 0000M. So the numbering is bizarre. And the reason for that is because oh boy, look at this. Okay. Now this is kind of interesting. Actually, let me stop. Tahoma's been a little funky lately about let's just do this. Let's discard the changes. New scene anyway. Now I want to look at my project settings because it's like it's stuck on the other project. So let's open a recent project. So there we go. Okay, so that should do the trick. Okay, cool. Now I'll betcha this is probably not on the clipboard anymore. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so let's Control C, jump over here, Control V. Looks like it's gonna paste. And that you are. Thanks, Maria. You're very kind. Save all. Okay, and now it's 0000M. So yeah, there were so many changes to the beginning of the show from going way back months that I had to wind up going like 0000 ABC blah 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 just to keep the scenes in the right order. So now at this point, this really doesn't need to be very bright or anything. And it looks like it's probably going to want to be scaled down. So let me just hit the A key, scale, and just shrink that baby down like that. And then most of the work's all going to be done on these other levels.
Like so. But we're working with Asher. And what does Asher say? Let me go back to the other screen and see what Asher's line of dialogue is. We aren't going... The more and the...
Okay, no, I should consider that. I might want to go back to this. But Asher, you really didn't explain anything about...
No more time.
Oh no, I guess that shot's okay.
The poor and the hungry aren't going to feed themselves. The poor and the hungry aren't going to feed themselves,
Asher says. Okay, so it is true that we are... And by the way, I may take a 1-minute break here before too long and go make myself a martini because it is... At 7:30 at night, it's just about martini time. Okay, so I'm looking at this shot and going, okay, he's got his hand up like that. So I think what I'll do is actually leave this screen like that, and that'll be my basis for the next shot. So let's pencil test this really quick. This the original version of this scene or shot only had I'm checking my microphone here. Okay, it only had 32 frames, so this is not a particularly long shot.
So what we're going to do
is we're going to hit the B key, and that creates a new level. And then I'm going to go ahead and do kind of the fun charcoal pencil type pencil test, just because, like I said, it's nothing but fun. So we need to start out by matching the prior shot. Okay, so this is basically just a jump cut from the wider shot to a little bit more of a close-up. And I'm going to, on the other screen, I am going to check the other shot and just see. Yeah, I guess it was actually kind of a lot closer than what I'm doing here. So, well, that's okay. We just hit the, whoops, undo. We just hit the S key and scale it up. You just scale it up, my friends. It's easy as pie. Okay, so hit the B key. And so charcoal is one of my favorite brushes. You know, you said that before. I don't blame you. I like the fact that when you press harder, it actually gets narrower. So you can sort of sketchy and then press hard and get a nice tight line. I have tried, though. I have, against my better judgment, tried using the charcoal brush for inking, and boy, did that backfire.
That backfired in a big way.
So anyway, we're kind of at an interesting crossroad because since I do have, I feel like I'm at that place where maybe we can start to look at the, shall we say, the commercial implications of this show. In that, I do have this 3 to 4 minute webisode, if you will, that I feel like I'm ready to release. I mean, I'm finally at that place where I got the score done and I'm satisfied with it. The sound effects feel good. The whole experience is feeling pretty good. So I'm like, why don't we like release the first 4 minutes, and then what I'm getting at is that this would suggest that if ever there was a time to finally get serious about like setting up a Patreon and stuff like that, it's probably time. It's probably time for that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about today. So that at least if people dig what they're seeing, maybe they have a way to help support the ongoing development. So let's see here. This is going to be... So I'm kind of looking at the options. Like, you know, of course there's Patreon. And I may even consider going back to the whole idea of a kind of a traditional crowdfunding thing. But my suspicion, I could be wrong, but my suspicion is that if I let a completed episode out, I think maybe that's going to help maybe get some traction for the show and its continued, as I say, development. So anyway, only one concurrent viewer. Maria, I think you might be the only one around. I tell you, girl, I don't know why you stick with me like you do, but I appreciate it. So he's got this stick going on, and I guess we want to kind of run the stick up to about there. Okay, is he on character? Not quite. I feel like that was a little sloppy. Asher is basically a circle, and his eye line is pretty much right there. He's got this really crooked nose thing going on. Nose thing. Yeah, it's what we call a nose. Okay, so I'm thinking now about the dialogue. So we're going to be starting with Asher looking this way, and then he'll turn his attention over to Melchizedek with a bit of a smile. So I learned so much watching, and you always have interesting things to say. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to think that I'm interesting, but sometimes I wonder. I'm actually thinking a lot about Smog 11 right now. You know, he was quite courageous the other day in admitting that as a creative person, sometimes he sort of suffers from, depression, really. That can be debilitating, man. You know, it's like you just... I think creative people are vulnerable in that if you feel like there's barriers to whatever it is you want to be or do, then that can be discouraging. And actually, if there are no barriers, in a sense, that can be discouraging too. That can actually deflate your motivation. Let's see, I'm looking at Maria's comment. Like I said last time, I did a brave thing thanks to you. I recorded myself singing for our last virtual production. Well, that's cool. That's very cool. People are often very... I always find it a little strange. I mean, I guess I remember back in the day when I had my first recording studio job, and I did not at all. Actually, I was selling professional message on hold service back in the 90s, you know, to clients and building my business, and I didn't do any of the like the voiceovers myself at all. I thought I had a terrible voice. And it was really, I guess, like so many things, it was kind of an economic decision where I'm like, I don't want to have to keep paying these radio jocks to record my voices for me, you know. So I finally started trying to do it myself, and eventually came to realize that, well, put it this way, I've been doing voiceover myself for close to 30 years, and I've never once had a client say, I don't like that voice, can you get somebody different? I've had very rare instances where somebody wanted a female voice instead of a male or something like that, but okay, so we basically have Asher blocked in here, and looking at the cuffs on his shirt. But I love it, man. I think I feel like the universe, and speaking of Smog 11, the truth of the matter is, I think that I feel like the universe is making a deal with me. You know, that's kind of what I feel like. Can't prove it, don't know that it's true, but it's kind of what I feel right now for a bunch of reasons I won't get into in terms of just sort of what I've been learning and dealing with for the last couple months. In large part when I was not live streaming, when I was not on YouTube. And I think the deal basically is it's kind of like the universe or God or whatever says, you have everything you need to have everything you want, to gain everything you want, which for me is very simple. I'm very happy to be able to just spend my days writing, animating, and scoring, and doing the audio post-production and stuff, voicing, whatever. Cartoons. I really feel like it's like that's what I should be doing. So the deal is, again, this is how it sort of harkens back to Smog 11 the other day, is that it's kind of like the universe is saying, now, in exchange for that, in exchange for doing exactly what you were, pretty much born to do, there's something you have to do in return. And what is that? You have to give up ego. You have to give up shame. You have to give up all the dysfunctionalities that have kept you from fully believing that you could have what you actually want or do what you want. Now, this isn't all I want to do, for sure. I mean, but for the most part, it's pretty much where I want to go for the next chapter of my life. So, there's, some of it's talent or skill, I should say. Some of it's, stuff you got to develop. Some of it's discipline. All right, what does Asher say? He says, okay, so he says the poor and the hungry aren't going to feed themselves. Economics, royalty freedom, he got the whole world. He's got the whole world in his hands. Nice. It's hard to hear what Smog was saying. I hope he finds encouragement to trust himself. Well, like I said, I feel it was very, I was having a hard time, I'm taking a guess, right? I'm looking at what little he put in the chat, and I'm making a guess about where he's at psycho-emotionally. And, his answer was yes, that's pretty much it. And so to that, I gave him my best advice, which in his case was just to slow down. It's really kind of amazing, actually, how much, just in so many different ways in life, you find out that the fast way is the slow way, and the slow way is the fast way. You make fewer mistakes, and the thing I was saying to him is you become present. The whole idea of being present sounds like a bunch of voodoo, woo-woo stuff. It kind of is, but it's actually true, too, at the same time. That when you... Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. When you literally force yourself to move more deliberately, you become, you notice things, you start to see. It's hard to explain. You engage with your world in a way that you don't as well if you're moving too fast. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I think I better be prudent here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put in a third. Okay, so here's the top line. I'm kind of indulging doing a more of a traditional pencil test on this one, just because, probably because it's 7:30 at night and I'm just kind of in the mood to do it. I've been rearranging my schedule. One of the things I did was traditionally, well, for the longest time, I've first thing in the morning I'll do I'll journal, So journaling is a very important part of my daily routine. But what I found was, you know what, Dave, you're giving your best creative hours, in terms of your creative energy to journaling. So that was when I switched and said, you know what I think I'm going to do is work on the musical score first thing in the morning kind of thing, and I found that I was getting more done and liking the results too. I was liking what I was hearing, and so, and you know how it is. You get to a certain time of day where you're kind of like, you've spent your energy for the day, right? And so maybe you're tired or whatever, and there's there's things you can do when you're tired, and there's things that you can't do very well when you're tired. For me, the musical scoring is harder if I'm not kind of like really up on my energy. And I don't even think it's because it's difficult or anything like that. This gets back to the stuff I was talking about, smog. It talks about the emotional stuff. The reason is, I know what the reason is. And the reason is because it's consequential to me. The fact that I want to do it well and that it matters to me, and music has always been a really big part of my life, means that it's more costly. It's a bigger deal if I screw it up and do a bad job, right? And that can shut down the creative process. Really, take it to its extreme. You're so afraid that you're going to do a bad job or suck. And in the greater picture of things, it's almost like saying you almost don't want to fully engage with the creative process that you want to be involved with, because what if you find out that you really, really, really suck, and then your bubbles popped, your idea of what you thought was possible for you. You might find out the truth, and the truth is you suck or you can't do it. Isn't that crazy? That's totally silly. Logically it doesn't stack up at all. But that's actually what I find interesting about it is in fact the psycho-emotional things that go on inside of us that wind up basically dictating our behavior for the most part. We are weak creatures. And you would think after, I'm looking at your notes here, you have to be where you are. Boy, that's so true. And not just in the micro, but in the macro, you have to be where you are in the sense that it's about honesty and truthfulness. It's about admitting to yourself. This gets kind of dovetails back from what I'm talking about. Doing anything creative that's consequential, that matters to you, in other words, the healthy personality, what they would say is, if I suck, I want to find out as quick as possible so that I can seek out either the instruction I need or the practice I need or whatever to fix it. And so I think for many of us, the most terrifying thing is just to learn the truth. It's funny because you'd think after making a bunch of movies, and I've scored lots of movies, but scoring is the one thing that still gets me. As a writer and as an animator, I'm pretty comfortable in my own skin. Like, I'm pretty comfortable that, if I work at it, I'm gonna get this. This'll turn out okay. For some reason, and I think it is finally changing, but for some reason, even after all these years, I still get a little jizzed up about anything musical. Pretty crazy. So I have a lot of empathy for people who struggle creatively or struggle with depression and things like that, where if you knew for a fact that you were okay, that the world has your back and that it's okay to make mistakes, and even more extremely in a lot of people's cases, just knowing that your bills are paid. I think for a lot of people, if they could have that belief, it would be, they'd be kind of liberated, right? To be the best themselves that they can be and contribute whatever it is that they were kind of designed to create. or contribute. Because I think we all have something to contribute. That's my belief. But maybe I'm rambling here. I guess I have a right to ramble since I am actually working on my show. But okay, so he goes. Yeah, one thing I didn't like about it was the way I drew his hand. I thought that looked pretty stupid. Same. It took me almost 63 years to learn how not to be afraid of things I often forget what I've learned. And you know, I appreciate you saying that, Maria. I have, you know, it's I have said here that this whole general topic, the idea of being psycho-emotionally healthy, being an emotionally healthy person, a person who's free of ego, a person who really likes yourself and probably the way to say it would be to believe. You know, for everybody it's different. What is it you want to believe? What is it that you wish you could know for a fact that it's okay for you to believe? You know, for some people it's that I'm a good person, you know, or that I'm worthy in some way, you know? I mean, this stuff goes really, really deep into the psycho-emotional self to where it can actually be quite difficult to be truthful, because sometimes stuff's buried really, really deep, where you have to really sit and think about it to crack out what's really motivating you, you know, this type of stuff. So this probably doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm sure it sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, but let's see here. I think I want to just go boom, and then boom, and then up, and then down. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm mapping his hand. I'm going to have him actually shift his weight around, and I think just for fun, maybe we'll even do this. Maybe we'll even introduce a little bit of squash and stretch in the stick. So when you say that you struggled for a long time, you know, for various reasons. I mean, how do I put this? If you're into like meditation and stuff, there's a concept that, and by the way, a lot of people, well, like, I mean, obviously I have come most of my life from a Christian paradigm, and I always want to be kind of careful about this stuff, because people have so many preconceived ideas about things that are unfamiliar, that they can think, well, they can be quick to sort of judge it as being either wacky or evil or whatever. So anyway, in the world of meditation, you know, it's well established by psychology and whatnot that meditation is very good for you in a lot of ways. You know, physically, the breath aspect of it, and what it does to your circadian rhythms, what it does to your heart rate, you know, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of good things about motivation. Okay, so that's well established. Hey, Blifton, welcome. Haven't seen you in a while, buddy. So the long story short is that there's a one type of meditation is called Kundalini meditation. It's a pretty aggressive type of meditation, right? It's people who do that are kind of chasing a sort of a bliss experience. Sometimes people have what they call a Kundalini awakening that is spontaneous. It can happen for no apparent reason, and it can actually kind of look a lot like psychosis, truthfully, in terms of the way it kind of opens up your mind and just literally mentally changes the way you see things. People who experience it often have an experience that is very it really changes the way they look at people and life and what's important and things like that. They tend to wind up being more concerned about the earth, you know, and sustainability and things, you know, that kind of stuff. So, well, point of the story being that I don't know that I had a Kundalini awakening. A couple months ago, but I think I did. And it really and the experience was kind of, I mean, of course you guys could Google it, but you know, there's sort of a quintessential experience people have when they have a Kundalini awakening that it's usually very uncomfortable in a lot of ways. It's actually quite uncomfortable. And I got through that. I got through it, but it definitely impacted my view of my life and the world and what I want to do and why I want to do it, you know, and that sort of thing. So it's like I said, it probably sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, but certain things affect me a lot more than they used to. So, you know, like you, Maria, when you say it took you 63 years to learn how not to be afraid, that I kid you not, that literally starts to bring a tear to my eye. Just you saying that, you know, affects me. And there, you know, there was a time when I'd have been like, oh man, you know, it's like I cared about it, but it didn't affect me, right? So part of my odyssey in the last couple years of my life has been really just getting in tune with my emotions and learning to feel. You'd think I'd be pretty good at that, being, you know, creative people. You know, the whole point of music and stories is to affect people's emotions, right? But no, I actually think I kind of had a lot of growing to do. So I don't like this. Let me see here. Who else is here? We got Maria and Blifton. It looks like that's it. No one cares. No one cares about what I'm doing. Well, I don't particularly blame them. It's probably kind of boring. Okay, so let's move this over here. Let me see. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so I'm gonna... His face is straight over here. So I guess, yeah, we'll go ahead and do a turn. Might as well. Sometimes the creative process can help fortify the barriers. So when you do the sort of thing you're talking about, that the vulnerability can come through. Yeah. I think a lot of it is courage. I mean, I'm being careful about what I say, and because I'm being careful, hey, Tiny Salad, because I'm being careful about how I say it, I'm not really doing a good job of saying what I'm trying to say. This actually speaks back to everything I'm talking about. You know, the best thing to do is to let go, be utterly unafraid, and just say what you really mean. So, of course, to a degree, I have to think about it. What do I mean? It's largely about courage. Okay? It's largely about courage. Because if you take somebody who comes to a place like this, right, who's exploring animation, for example, as a storytelling medium or a creative outlet, there are so many questions that one asks oneself, maybe not explicitly, but emotionally you feel it, right? Questions you ask yourself related to this thing that you're trying to do. And the question is, and I've alluded to this in other live streams and things, but for me, the question is, can I do this? Why would you get involved in a creative venture unless you And you, Maria, probably have a bit of an advantage, at least the impression I get from what little I know, is that with your theater stuff, you have a community. You know, you've got a bit of a community around you that I assume is generally supportive. So that helps a lot. You know, that helps tremendously when you have a bit of a tribe that is supportive of your creative endeavors. For me, you know, there's certainly a number of people that I've worked with filmmaking over the years who always would, you know, be pretty stoked to know whatever I might be up to. But I don't really have a tribe. But yeah, actually, truthfully, you guys are my tribe, as much as anybody, really. I mean, because you know, especially with COVID, you know, we just really don't get out a lot, and I'm good with that. I like my quiet little life, just doing what I do, and frankly, what I've done for the last 30 years is actually a real trend right now. People are leaving their jobs and starting businesses, you know, like at-home type businesses. This is like a major thing right now that people are. There seems to be, if you know, the astrologers out there are saying, well, that's because we've entered the age of Aquarius, and there is literally a different energy, you know, going on, and they blame it on the planets. But whether they're correct about that or not, it is a trend, that's for sure. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's a beautiful thing, actually. Oh yes, the community is wonderfully helpful. Our culture has become too sensitive for you to say what you want. I'd like to think not. I mean, basically, if I say something that somebody can't choke down, then obviously it's pretty easy for them to not listen to me, right? They don't have to listen to my YouTube channel, right? They can just go elsewhere. So in that sense, you know, you might as well be who you are, because the people that are interested in what you're about will. I think that's what's going on. I mean, if I'm going to say the direction we're going culturally, kind of on almost a metaphysical level, where it's like, you know, this is where we're headed. Can't really say why, but this is what I think might be going on. Is kind of like, everybody has their own talent or their own strength, right? Everybody's got their own abilities. And my general conviction is that if you put us all in a neighborhood, what you're going to find is that there's a balance that emerges between what this guy can do and what that girl can do, and you find that if everybody's really authentically doing what they're either best suited for or love to do or whatever, we're going to find that everybody can contribute, and it's all good. And the truth of the matter is, this might be a little too utopian, but the truth is that if we didn't have to worry about paying the bills, then that's pretty much what we'd be doing. You know, you just do what turns you on, and you'd find your audience for your work, or, you know, creativity or whatever it is, and you know, it just sorts itself out. I think socioculturally that is kind of a trend that's going on in any case. Okay, so now I totally botched his face. I'm going to erase it and just redo it. So, but while we're here, I think I'm also going to, since I'm kind of in pencil test mode, I may not go very far with this beyond a pencil test today, but as long as we're doing it this way, let's just do it, as I sometimes like to say, Glenn Keane style, where let's just keep it loose and get the acting right first. Okay, so what I'm doing wrong here, for those of you who are, wanting to learn about animation, I'm really kind of making some mistakes here by rendering this to, like, the detail on his face. I probably shouldn't have done that. What I should have done, and I'll remedy that by just starting right now doing it correctly, is I really should have done it, like I say, Glenn Keane style. Just, okay, so this is anatomically off. Let's just redo it. I want to have fun here, so let's have fun by doing it correctly. So, whoops, that's the wrong tool. So this, June. Okay, hand. Yeah, there we go. So this tween is maybe a little questionable, but the thing I'm mainly concerned about here is the size of his skull. Since I think that was drawn okay, I'm just going to go ahead and widen it a bit. Because, yeah, that's better. Okay, so... Alright, so now let's look at... It's really, the thing is, it's like I'm covering a lot of ground here. When I talk about courage and overcoming barriers, it is really true that I found this over and over, is that when I just do it, when I just engage with the process, there's really two things. This is probably something I should have shared with Smog. It's two little rules. There's the 3-minute rule and there's the 10-minute rule that I think you guys may find useful. The 3-minute rule is basically working on my deer today for my New Year's e-card. And by frame 6, I had to select and resize everything. There you go. You do what you got to do. The 3-minute rule is essentially do it now. In other words, the instant something crosses your mind that you probably maybe ought to do it. Like right now. Don't even hesitate. Go. Because what you find is the expense, logistically and emotionally, the expense of decision making is actually the most expensive thing. So sitting there and agonizing over should I or shouldn't I, or should I do it later, or should I just kind of plan for it, or blah blah blah, what should I do? That decision making process actually turns out to be the thing that winds up taking most of your time, and it costs you a lot of energy. Excuse me. It actually, indecision is extremely costly, energetically speaking. And I don't mean that esoterically, I mean that physically. So the 3-minute rule says, you know what, if it pops in your head, just go do it. And then the 10-minute rule is something I've discovered with all kinds of things, which is that it takes 10 minutes to get into the zone. Like, if you start doing something and you stick with it for 10 minutes, you'll find that you do kind of get in the zone and start having fun with it, and creative ideas start to flow, and blah, 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 blah. But that first 10 minutes can be tough sometimes, right? So I've definitely found the 3-minute rule and the 10-minute rule to be quite useful. Then another thing for me personally that I did, as I said, added this week, was I was working on the musical score for the show first thing in the morning, because I wanted to give my very best prime, juicy, creative time to that. And that paid off. That paid off, because I wound up making way more progress, way faster, and I liked what I was hearing too. So, okay, so this animation is shaping up. I'm not fighting myself as much as I was by keeping it loosey-goosey here. Loosey-goosey not being a bad thing. That's actually a very good thing. Keeping it loose. Let's keep it loose. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to roughly indicate where his eyes would be. Okay, so you say, okay, well, yeah, but I'm going to do. It's really weird because I think if this was like a verbal chat kind of thing, it'd be really interesting to find out like from people. I've asked this before on the channel, is like, why are you here kind of thing, but I'm very curious about what it is that people really want to do. What is it you really want to do? So a lot of times people won't answer that question accurately. They will not tell the truth because they don't really believe that what they really, really want is actually possible for them. I think that's a big, big, big problem. And so what you do is, it's the reason why you take a job that you don't really like, for the money or whatever. It's because what you really want to do, you don't believe you can have or whatever, and so you satisfice, and then you make up a story to tell yourself, what the good things are about the decision that you made, when deep down inside it wasn't really what you wanted to do at all. So I can relate to that in the sense that, I've had a great life and, done okay in various ways, but there are certainly aspects of what I really, truly, truly wanted to do, I kind of talked myself out of back, years ago. And so I say that even as a person who's done some pretty things that a lot of people think are pretty interesting, like making films and stuff. And it was fun. I mean, it was really cool in many ways, but the truth is what I really wanted to do is pretty much what I'm doing now. It's pretty much what I'm doing now. Get up in the morning, create stories, music, and animation. If I have an axe to grind, or a story to tell, or a point I want to make, or an opinion to share, of course I'm doing it here while I'm blabbing while I work, but, for the most part, do it through stories. Why not? I made this point here before that it's something I learned from one of my heroes, Stephen J. Cannell, was that if you do have an axe to grind and a point you want to make through a story, well, if you're going to do it effectively through a story, that forces you to understand and empathize with the opposite point of view, which I think is a great thing. Because otherwise you can't tell a great story, because you have to have a character that represents the conflict, the conflicting point of view, right? So, okay, Maria says, there's the mindset misdirect rule too. When I'm stuck, I'll clean, cook, or make bread. Yes, that does actually relate to what I was saying to Smog about going slowly. But it's so these are all related concepts that seem to have to do with. I keep coming back to belief, but I think it really is about belief. That probably doesn't make any sense. Let me think about how to restate that so it actually makes sense. I'll try to follow through the sort of the psychology of what I'm trying to express here as best I can. Think about this. I think I really want that arm to be straight. I got myself in a little bit of a pickle here because I don't want his hand to fly off the screen, but in order for him to do what I really kind of want him to do here, I think his arm needs to be stretched out. So the only way I really make that play is to bring his head back further. So what I'm doing right now, kind of talking to you, Maria, really. You might be the only one here, but the misdirect is extremely useful because a lot of times creative ideas happen when you're thinking about something else. So some people would say that's your subconscious actually going ahead and working on a problem. There's certainly some truth to that. But what I was, when I keep harkening back to smog, what I'm getting at is that if you have all these rules, I think that somebody who deals with depression, if you can have all the rules in the world, and if you're emotionally shut down and depressed, then your energy can be so low that you you know just cannot find the verve to, for some people, get up in the morning. I've never really had that happen to me, but I've certainly had times when I was creatively so intimidated by something that I just couldn't. I had a hard time really starting, I guess, because partly you don't want to fail, partly you don't want to have the experience of having it go badly, and then that sort of beats you up emotionally or whatever, that type of thing. So, but generally, the best thing to do is just engage with it. That's why I was asking about what do people really want to do. Collaboration is an important thing to ponder in that regard. I've talked about that here as well a little bit. And collaboration comes with its own set of risks. It can be, well, okay, actually this is what I'll say. I have another rule. There's a principle, I call it the principle of least disruption. This is a good rule for emotional people, and creative people are often emotional. When you have an insight or a breakthrough or an inspiration or a disappointment, in other words, something happens that kind of shakes you a little bit, that's the worst time to make changes in your life. Disruptive changes. That's when you don't want to make disruptive changes. You need to take a chill pill and wait. Yeah, you do learn about collaboration in the theater environment. That's for sure. So, what does that have to do with collaboration? Well, if you're, I don't know, if you're kind of bipolar and you have ups and downs, then when you're on an up, it can be really easy to get yourself involved in some collaborative thing or something because everything looks like sunshine and roses, and then once you're actually engaged with people and you're into it, the very next day, you're like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into, kind of thing, right? So there is that danger. It is actually a thing. Okay, so now he's got to be smiling. Anyway, I think for me the sumupance of all this stuff is that I like what I'm doing right now. I'm really happy to just the idea that I can just animate my characters and make my little voices and make my music. That's a really, really cool thing. Just an amazing thing to be able to do. And it's like I said, that's the sense I have right now, is like the universe or God or whatever. It's kind of making a deal with me. Saying, Dave, if you're willing to totally let go of ego, always be a learner, be open, don't be afraid to feel or to express yourself honestly. Get rid of shame. You're old enough. You don't need to. There's nothing you need to blame your parents for anymore. Yada yada yada. I suppose my mom passing away helped drive that point home to a degree. Although I've gotten along fine with my mom for the last many decades, but yeah, if you're willing to let those dysfunctionalities go and trust the process, trust yourself, then yeah, then you just keep doing what you're doing and Do what you care about. For me, that kind of commitment is good. I'm prone to being by myself. Lockdown was not a hardship for me. Yeah, I'm mostly that way myself, for sure. Coming back into the work office was hard. Yeah, I bet it would be. Okay, so let's let this roll. Is this going to play at 8 frames per second? I bet it's not. Oh, wait, it is, because this is Salt and Light. Duh. So I am going to hit rewind. This might be one of those cases, frankly, Maria, where I'm doing a pretty poor job of capturing what I'm really trying to say on a lot of these kinds of things. But, you know, I wouldn't try to say it if I didn't care. You know what I'm saying? If I didn't care about people having a positive experience in their life and creatively, it's just, you know, here, especially with like animation, I don't know how to help, you know? I don't know what it is that I can, you know, I don't know what I'm really contributing here in terms of, I think the show will be you know, when the show is released, that'll be a cool thing, you know. But as far as the people, you know, what do the people here need? I truly don't know. And maybe it's just to hang out. That might be all it is. I don't know. And that's cool. I forgot to get my martini. I really kind of want my martini. Let's see. How long have I been live streaming? Almost an hour. I'll tell you what. I'm going to take a 3-minute break. What I'm going to do is, because I feel like this pencil test is going well, and I like what I'm seeing. So I think I'll go make a martini and then get Zuko. His cage needs to be covered up. Hanging out is enough. You've centered a community. I appreciate that. I mean, I really seriously, in my heart of hearts, care about every single person who comes here. And I wonder, I think that maybe where my empathy comes out is that, you know, and what I'm sharing here is just, this is literally my heart of heart, what I feel, is I don't want the people here to struggle. Like, if you want to create a show, okay, if I can help you figure out how to do that, or, you know, or create it, or, you know, it's like I wonder what do people want to do and how can I help? Because I don't know that I'm necessarily being all that useful, other than, as you say, just hanging out is kind of cool. And obviously, you know, I'm the center of attention here because this is my YouTube channel, but it's funny. Life is kind of an adventure that's unfolding for me. And I think understanding how being part of a tribe, what does that really mean and what does that feel like? An authentic tribe, or, you know, community group, whatever. I don't know that I really know that well what that feels like, because I feel like there's so many aspects of my life that have been falsified in different ways in terms of who I truly present as. So the entire time that I was functioning as an evangelical Christian, I see that whole part of my life as being just absolutely dripping with falseness, not just in me, but also in the community I was part of, in so many ways. And I know, and I don't want to be too hard on them, because I know a lot of those people are trying really hard to connect and, you know, keep it real. But the problem is that when you externalize the solution to your problems, you know, in other words, Jesus is the solution to everything, all you're doing is you're telling a story that is so overly simplified. It's like kindergarten level simplification, because what that does is it protects you from actually having to look honestly at yourself and your responsibility and your role, right? And so in that sense, religion has been quite detrimental for a lot of people. Tiny Salad, I appreciate that. I'm going to go take that break, grab my martini, cover up Zuko's cage. It'll take me about 3 minutes. And then whatever you want to pick my brain about, you feel free, because I just feel like I've been blabbing forever here. So I'll be back in 3. Just to be nice, I will go ahead and loop the musical score. So what I'll do is I'll play the musical score in a loop for the section I've been working on. So this won't make any sense with the visuals, but I'm going to make a loop, okay, which you guys can't see that right now, but, and then I'll just let this animation loop for a couple minutes while I go do that. Okay, sound like a plan. So here's this. That's playing in a loop. And we'll have some nice music, and I'll be back in 3. Okay, I am back. So I guess we will stop the music. Hope that was okay for you. And let's stop the animation. Sure. Hello, mouse. There you are. Boop. I'm sorry, L key. Okay, so you're in Finland. Nice, man. Morning is not as much a time as a concept, though. Oh, so it's actually tomorrow morning, but it's pretty early, isn't it? Cold here in New York. Yeah, and my son from New York, he's I don't know, who lives in New York. He's gonna be here on Friday. Yeah, thanks on the music. I'm happy with how it came out. You know, I have to say once I just got rolling on it, it was um see, that's the other thing I'm talking about, all this sort of the way I'm evolving right now. The evolution, yeah, okay, I was going to say around 3 a.m. The evolution I've been going through by being sort of more liberated emotionally, I'm doing better creative work too, I think. And in fact, actually, I can show this. I can show this here because um, it's basically a statistical impossibility that my son would ever watch this video. So I can show this, but this where is this? Look at this. This is my Christmas gift for my son Kyle. He wanted a painting of a mako shark, and I was really proud of it because it it feels like a magazine cover from like the 1930s or something, like one of these pulp magazine, like real men fighting sharks or something. um, and it's might be one of the better paintings I've ever done because it's got that dynamic. Um, it's just got that something that I've really wanted to capture, in my paintings. Thanks. Uh, I want to do more like that have that kind of energy to it, you know. Mm-hmm. So, energy, people. Okay. So, I like how the paint hugs the texture of the canvas and creates a mood. Yeah, and that is oil. That's my water soluble oil paints, which I tell you, I've kind of been around the block, and I really thought that for me it was going to wind up being watercolors, which I like watercolors. I do enjoy using watercolors, and um, but I have to say, now that I've been done some paintings in oil, I'm an oils guy. There's something about it that just works for me. Okay, so let's just this gets back to your misdirection principle too. It's so amazing how working in little spurts is such good practice. Like, just really hit something hard for maybe just 10, 15 minutes is all. And then get away from it. And what you find is you come back and you see and you hear things that you just didn't see, just a few minutes earlier sometimes. It's kind of amazing. And that happened many times working on that music that I was playing a little bit ago, where I would um, just come back a little while later and I'm like, oh, now I see what to do. That happened many times. It was becoming I've actually started to become dependent on that. Right? It's been such a useful thing that I've seen happen so many times that it's becoming a normal thing that I just expect. And so that for me that's cool because you don't pound your head against the wall working something to death. You just do it and then, go do the dishes or whatever. Come back and all of a sudden you're going to see and hear things that you didn't see and hear just a few minutes earlier. Quite useful. Quite useful indeed. Okay. Okay, so alright, so now what if at this juncture, let's think about what the dialogue is going to be. What does he say? Let me go back on my other screen. I'm just going to go to the dialogue. I think he says the poor and the hungry can't feed themselves or something. Let's switch back here.
The poor and the hungry aren't going to feed themselves.
Right. The poor and the hungry aren't going to feed themselves. I've had an opposite experience too. Once in France, I planned a day trip, woke up feeling weird, walked around not knowing what was wrong, then finally bought a coffee and a pad and pen, and out came a monologue fully formed. Yeah, it's I'm glad you said that. The thing that I don't think those two experiences are different, actually, because the common thread between them has to do with being unencumbered. Okay. If you're and so in other words, and this harkens back to everything that I've been talking about today. If you're unencumbered creatively, and you're unencumbered emotionally, then there's nothing to worry about. And so then you're not afraid to just let it flow, and you can be very in tune with your feelings, what it is exactly that you're really wanting to express. And so when all those barriers are gone, and imagine yourself in a situation where you're just literally unafraid to express yourself spontaneously, just impromptu. If you have that safety, let's call it, then you're gonna deliver the most authentic rendering of what you're capable of at that moment in time. And that's where the emotional part is again important, because you have to know that you can only do what you can do. You can only do as well as what you're capable of. And if you're in a good place emotionally, then you say, well, that's okay, because I know I'm going to improve a little bit tomorrow. I know I'm going to grow. I'm going to learn new skills. I'm okay with myself at the level I'm at today. I just want to express myself as best I can based on what I currently know, what I currently believe, what I currently feel like expressing ideas about or whatever. So this safety component is enormously important to people's ability to be creative. This is feeling pretty good, I must say. No hesitation, just came pouring out. Yeah, it's cool when it can happen. So the question is, of course, how do you facilitate that? And that comes back to what I said, an hour ago, which is, it seems to me that it really comes down to courage. If you were literally not in any way, shape, or form afraid in any way to authentically spray out whatever it is that's inside of you right now, then you just do it. And I think if we were all that way, we would all be doing a better job, and we'd be happier too, right? Mm-hmm. A semi-meditative state, and you're better than you actually are. Once you get in a semi-meditative state, you're better than you actually are. You mean in the sense that because I suppose actually in your brain or whatever, because barriers are removed through relaxation or whatever, that you are able to tap into abilities that are beyond what you thought you could do or might be used to doing or whatever. Is that what you mean by being better than you actually are? I just wanted to clarify that, because I'm not sure how one could be better than they actually are. They could be better than they believe they are. And I think what you're saying has to do with the idea that by getting in that zone, you might discover, this actually has happened in the last couple of weeks with me, like in a big way, in the way I play piano. My piano has improved like a lot just in the last couple of weeks, and it's just because It's just like the walls came down, man. The walls came down. Is that what you mean there, Max? Okay, this is interesting because now I'm starting to. My friend plays piano and got and got something. Got COVID. I was gonna use a piano example. Wait. Thought I was gonna use a piano example. Oh, are you saying you're saying I wrecked it for you because I used a piano example? Sorry, dude. Beat you to it. Ha ha. No, I still want to hear your piano example though. That's interesting stuff. I don't know. I should probably become a guru. That's what I should do. I should be like Joe Dispenza or Greg Braden or one of these guys that's making all kinds of money from just basically telling people that it's okay for them to just be themselves. Same as yours, but once he gets into that state, his teacher told him, you sound a lot better. Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, the bottom line, especially with musicianship, where you're actually having to do something physical, which when you're nervous can, you can get all bound up and make mistakes. So clearly we know that's true. When people are nervous about making mistakes, they're enormously more likely to make mistakes. So the fear factor is really, really important. I think the problem with it, the problem that we have to a degree is this. Let me look at Maria's. My sister and her husband bought an electric keyboard for me, and I'm teaching myself piano and reading music bit by bit. That's very cool. I actually have a keyboard I'm going to be giving to my sister here shortly. I've got enough of them laying around and she wants to learn, so I'm just going to give her one of mine. It's one of those Yamaha. It's not a weighted keyboard like a real piano. Like the one I usually use in my studio, but it's got pretty good sound and stuff, My sister and her husband, he got into meditative state and play 10 years ago. Now he's using it as a conductor. Nice. Exercise by counting breath. Right. Well, yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like Shakti meditation is more like if you breathe in through your mouth, probably, or I'm sorry, wrong. Through your nose. Like 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4 in, and then out through the mouth, kind of like Darth Vader. That's a type of breath that's used in Shakti meditation. Kundalini meditation that I was talking about is a much, much more aggressive type of meditation that, it to a degree it's acting on your blood oxygenation and stuff like that. It's kind of the stuff that Wim Hof does, actually, if you know who Wim Hof is similar in some ways to some aspects of Kundalini meditation. So it does affect your brain, and dug up an old keyboard a few days ago to also learn it. That's cool. Everybody's like doing the keyboard thing. Well, there's also hang on, I'm having a brain fart. I hate when that happens. Heart coherence. So heart coherence, typically what they find is that it's basically 10 a minute. So if you breathe in 6 seconds and then out 6 seconds, typically through the nose both ways, what happens is your heart rate, well, actually, as far as your heart coherence goes, heart rate variability, what'll happen is you'll notice that your heart rate will increase while you're breathing in, and then it'll slow down when you're breathing out. And that's normal. Actually, if that happens, if that's fairly extreme for you, that's usually a very good sign of, in terms of your heart health kind of thing. People with a healthy heart tend to have good heart rate variability. But yeah, I mean, that's one breathing technique. As I say, Kundalini meditation is more, it's a lot lower typically. It kind of works all your groin area, Kegel muscles and things. And it's more oriented towards getting into a bliss state, ecstatic bliss. And I can tell you from experience that yes, you can. That can happen. But it also comes with a certain amount of risk. I think what it is, honestly, you know what I think? I think the reason for that is it's no different than if you were taking opioids. Opioids to a degree probably are beneficial. And so I'm not cracking down on opioids. It's kind of a hot topic, frankly, here in Indiana because the company that quite appropriately is being sued like crazy, involved in the opioid making OxyContin and things like that, which is a good drug. Used carefully and in correct application, OxyContin is a useful drug. But anyway, Kundalini meditation can create blissful states. And I think in the brain, chemically, you actually are flooding the brain with dopamine, endorphins. And so too much of that, it's like a heroin addiction or something. At some point, your brain kind of goes, okay, enough is enough. And I think that might be partly what's happening when people have this so-called Kundalini awakening. Mine too. Let me see here, guys. I tell you, I feel for you guys. I mean, here I'm a guy now. Of course, when I was gigging in bands and stuff, I was the lead guitar player. So guitar was what I started with, but I didn't want to. I wanted to play keyboards from the very start, and say one when you exhale. I'm looking at your comments, Max. Yeah, it's like the Wim Hof technique is actually quite useful. Very interesting, especially if you work out like I do. Like I lift weights most days, and but what Wim does is he'll go really deep breath in and out. Like he's gonna do that. He's gonna do that like 30 times, and what happens is the blood gets highly oxygenated, and you get I can't remember all the terms, but after you do that, you will find that you can crank out more reps than you can before doing. Now I don't do it 30 times. If I'm doing it between sets, like I'll do a set of bench presses, let's say, and then I'll actually have a stopwatch going. So I'll give myself 2 minutes between sets, and when I'm about 30 seconds before the next set, I'll do 8 of those. And then the last one, I'll kind of let it go out and hold it. And then I'll go and I'll go to the weight, like I'm ready to do my set, and then I'll breathe in one time. And you definitely find you perform better after doing 8 Wim Hof style breaths. I mean, it's kind of a dramatic difference actually in your strength and stamina. So if you do Wim Hof breaths 30 times, you can then hold your breath, and you will probably find it relatively easy to hold your breath for at least 2 minutes, solid, maybe 2.5. So that's pretty crazy. Okay, so once you have a thought, you start over. It's simple and gets your concept. Okay, now this is interesting, Max. you count and breathe for as long as you can, but once you have a thought, you start over. So in other words, you're trying to get yourself, your mind, completely focused on your breath, right? Is that what we're talking about? All right, so now what are we going to do? Are we going to do a really, really proper animation here? Okay. Well, let's see. Let's see where we go with this. We are operating at 8 frames per second. So at that rate, I'm going to just say probably, let's check how this feels. You know, this is actually pretty close as is. The line of dialogue is explain anything about...
No more time. The poor and the hungry aren't going to feed themselves.
Right. Okay.
The poor and the hungry aren't going to feed themselves.
Sometimes together. Focus on counting and breath. It's very interesting. I think, you know, I watched a YouTube video the other day where this woman, it was a TED Talk actually. And this woman was working with, I can't remember what the issue was. It might have been a 12-step program or something like that. But she was working with these people who had dealt with various challenges, and the 12-step group essentially became kind of their tribe to a degree. And what she found was really interesting. That the idea of the TED Talk was that the problem we have in our culture is not motivation, it's isolation. And the reason she puts forth this idea is because what she found in this group of people was that any idea or goal or dream that anyone in the group had, if they just shared it with the group, and you're talking about, you know, I assume 1 to 2 dozen people in a group, but whatever it was that the person wanted to do or cared about, business they wanted to start, what they really wished they were doing with their life, it didn't matter. What she found was if these people would share it in the group, without fail, there would be someone else in the group who'd go, oh yeah, I have one of those. Or like one example was, what was it the girl wanted to do? It was something obscure. Like she wanted to have some, let's just pretend, I'll make something up. Let's say somebody had the dream of doing an urban garden and selling organic food and like making that their goal, right? But they can't do it because maybe there's $10,000 worth of equipment they need to do it. Now that's a stupid example, but let's just say that's the example. And what would happen is somebody would share this dream and they think there's like no way it could happen. And then there'd be somebody else in the group who would go like, yeah, my aunt, that's what she did for 20 years and she just retired and she's got this whole situation that she needs to get rid of and she doesn't need the money, so yeah, she'd probably give it to you. This is like, and she's like, this like it would happen constantly. Like every single case, whatever someone would want or desire, if they simply let it be known, all resources would just come out of the woodwork, you know? I think there's a lot of truth to that. I really do. By the way, I'm chewing my olives, so ignore me. Huh. I actually think this may be one of the better animations I've done. I must be in the zone. Look at that. It's funny. Okay, my olives are gone, so I am gonna
He says, the poor and the hungry aren't going to feed themselves. This is awesome.
What? My sister likes what she calls an extra dirty Bloody Mary, which turns to be a Bloody Mary with lots of olives. Yeah, extra dirty. Well, with my martini is it's a straight it's a martini does not include vermouth. Okay, so traditionally with a martini you got gin and vermouth. I don't do vermouth. Don't like vermouth. I've tried it. Don't like it. And a traditional martini has an olive. Well, mine has an olive that's a jalapeno stuffed olive. So it's a little bit hot. Two of them, not one of them. And so it's not a pimento stuffed olive. And then there's like 2 tablespoons of the juice from the olive jar, right? It's basically salt water. I mean, it's really, it's brine, essentially, with a little bit of olive flavor. And for me, so that would be considered, and no ice. Traditionally, there's ice in a martini. An olive martini. Let me strike that. I don't know if that's true. Probably. I think I learned from my father-in-law, he would put it over ice. But I think traditionally it doesn't have ice. But I don't know. But, on the rocks, I don't do it on the rocks. So I don't want ice. So mine would be an extra dirty, in other words, extra olive juice, gin martini without vermouth, with 2 jalapeno stuffed olives, no ice. And I love it. I love it. I love it very much. This is feeling pretty good, guys.
The poor and the hungry aren't going to feed themselves.
Okay. The only thing, see, the deal is here, this is where the plastic tool comes into play, because really, I think I did a good job on the frame-by-frame animation. And then once we get here, you could do the plastic tool on this after it's inked and painted and add secondary animation where his arm kind of, just kind of bounces downward a little bit. So I'll just put in an indication of that here. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to be on this drawing. And we'll just add a extra. So this is essentially, this is what the plastic tool will be doing. And as you can see again, we're a little bit off the page, so that's kind of a little bit stupid. Yeah, thanks. I want to do more of this. Frankly, this type of just good old-fashioned, as what I always call Glenn Keane style animation, where you do a proper pencil test, very loose. It's what comes most natural to me. I mean, it's actually what I like doing the best. That was why I did that. I remember the reason I like Full Chain Animation's YouTube channel, I like his work, is because what he's doing is the stuff that seems to, I'm not saying I do it as well as he does, because I don't think I do, but what he's doing is what comes naturally to me. It's what feels good. It's what's fun. This like the hand here. This is not that fun because it's kind of mechanical. It's kind of, it's using digital tools to kind of take a shortcut. So it doesn't have as much life to it. I'm going to try to mitigate that a little bit by making it less of a change. But the real loose animation, at the risk of patting myself on the back, I think it's kind of what I've always been most good at and comes naturally to me. It's actually one of the really interesting things about that, and it could be a point of discouragement for some people, in a way, is that if I look at the animation I did when I first started getting into animation, so we're talking it'd be about 3 years ago. I was always kind of a cartoonist here and there, but I basically put it on hold for 30 years. It's why, I mean, it's kind of one of the ideas behind crowdfunding this show is that this was my, what I'm doing right now was kind of my dream. Even in high school. And this is crazy. When I was in high school, I got my hands on, through my art teacher, a stack of plastic cells. In other words, plastic that you could ostensibly paint on. And, oh, Boris. Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. When I was in high school, I also had The Art of Boris Vallejo and all the issues of The Fantastic Art of Frank Frazetta, which, by the way, I will tell you guys the truth, I shoplifted all of them. Man, I shoplifted a lot when I was in high school. Well, I shouldn't say high school. I mean, this is when I was 15. When I was about 15. Hey, Nutgut. Hey, or Nutgut. Good to see you, man. But those, despite the fact that I stole them, those books were definitely very meaningful to me at that time. It's just crazy to think back. My gosh, it was like, what would that be? 1981? 81, 82? I'm shoplifting. I'd go into this comic, or it wasn't a comic shop, it was a bookstore. I'd go into this bookstore. Now I'm really getting into some nasty territory here in terms of public confessions, but I finally got busted at one point. But I would go into a store, and back in the day I had this vinyl tote bag. It's like a gym bag, tote bag that you'd put school books in or whatever, or athletic related things. I would go in. I shouldn't laugh. It's really not funny. I would go in a store, but before I'd go in the store, I'd unzip the bag. Okay? And then I'd go in the store and I'd just sit the bag down on the floor. And now I'm just casually looking at comics or magazines or whatever. And I would just kind of look for an opportune moment, and I'd pick a couple comics or magazines, frankly porn, like dirty magazines. And I'd just slip them in the bag real quick, and then go back to just looking and casually, doing what I'm doing. And then I would, and then after I was pretty confident the coast was clear, because I was standing there for a few minutes after I had stuffed the stuff in the bag, then I would just stand up and I would walk out of the store with my goodies. I'm not proud of that, by the way, you guys. It is true that I really didn't have money. And so it wasn't like I could have bought the things I wanted, but I didn't necessarily need the things that I stole either, So, no, I was bad, man. When I was in high school, I should say when I was 15 years old, I shoplifted quite a lot. Back then, audio cassettes were a thing, and I shoplifted a lot of cassettes of music I wanted. Okay. So now we don't need to do the lip sync per se, but I'm actually wondering if maybe I should just jump right into ink and paint. Let me do this again.
The poor and the hungry aren't going to feed themselves.
I think I am. I'm just going to do it. So let's go here. So I apologize if that shatters anyone's view of the great blended planet. But yeah, I was a prolific shoplifter when I was 15 years old. B. Okay. Gosh, the pressure is 1 to 2. I think we'll stick with those settings. I think that's okay. My people, I was saying that stealing a book is not a crime. Is that because if you steal a book... But actually, by the way, Max, who are your people? I don't know where you're from. I mean, I think maybe you probably said it in the past, but so forgive me for forgetting, but yeah, who are your people? I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking. If you do mind me asking, then just tell me to, as we say here in the States, go fly a kite. Crudentes, as a Sancho Panza say, we are, as God made us, many of us much worse. I like that. That's good. I am much, much worse than God made me. But that's an accurate statement. I mean, that speaks to the matter of choice, the role that we play, right? In being who we become. Well, it's funny because it relates back to everything we're saying about like emotion and creativity and all this stuff. Because when you deal with self-esteem issues, right? You're part of the problem is that you're basically saying, oh, I'm such a worm and I'm such a, I don't have good self-esteem. Well, the reality is that if you could just admit that in fact you are a worm, you'd probably feel a lot better. The problem isn't that you're a worm. The problem is that you can't tell the truth, right? That's the actual problem in the human condition. It's not all the stupid stuff we do or the stupid stuff we are, because we all have those. The problem is we can't tell the truth because the truth scares us. That's the problem. That's why we have socio-political problems. I really believe that. It's because people surround themselves with a tribe who give them social support and confirmation bias for the things they believe. And the things they believe are typically a very simplified story. They're just a gross simplification of the very boring nuance, of the truth of a matter. And that's part of the fun. Maria Torres, download one of his pictures, use the paint to draw lines. Are you talking about a Boris picture? let me know how that goes. I'll tell you what. And by the way, Boris's wife, Julie Bell. Oh my gosh. I mean, truthfully, it's my strong opinion that Julie is the better of the two artists. Like kind of a lot, actually. Boris is good, but Julie is just amazing. Julie Bell. I'll put it in the comments so you guys know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Boris, Boris was, he was a bodybuilder. He was pretty stoked, back in or jacked, I guess would be the term, back in the 70s. And I'm pretty sure that he actually hired Julie as one of his models because she was a bodybuilder too. Good looking lady. And so she was the model for some of his paintings, and then they wound up getting married, and they're still together to this day. Boris and Julie. If you Google Boris and Julie, just those words, it will, I am very sure, take you to Boris Vallejo and Julie Bell. So there you go. Boris and Julie. I love it. And Julie, man, she paints some sexy girls. She really does. Her paintings have more, I don't know, life and vitality than Boris's. Boris's, because he always painted from, Boris always painted from photographic reference. So unlike a guy like Frazetta, who literally is painting out of his imagination. Boris was always using photo reference. So for me, his stuff always seemed a bit stiff. Now, Julie used photo reference too, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, Maria, if you agree with me. But if you put a gun to my head and say you got to pick, I would say Julie is the better painter and better, what do I want to say? I mean, their compositions are pretty nice, so you can't really criticize their compositions. But yeah, I mean, it's all just opinion, of course. But for me, I also have to say, um, back then, okay, so we're talking like 1981, let's say. Really, Boris and Frazetta ruled the roost. I mean, that was it. You didn't have anything like you have today. And so, you pick your favorite. For me, it was by far Frazetta over Boris. I thought, but what Boris was awesome at was the. I mean, his handling of oil paint was amazing. He really the gradients and the really rich, vibrant colors in Boris's work were pretty amazing. But I still like the yeah, Julia's okay. Yeah, yeah. And Julie, she's she's still a beautiful lady. I don't know if she really body builds anymore, but she's definitely she's those of us who pump iron. It is just my general observation that I think this has been. I've been around it long enough to know that those of us who pump iron do tend to age well. I've always had a tendency to have people think I'm younger than I am and blah blah blah. I think that helps. But, I've been lifting weights almost every day since New Year's Day 1983. I kid you not. Oh, her wolves. Yeah, see, she's given up the she doesn't really do the fantasy art so much anymore, I don't think. She's doing, I mean, she really I think what happened was she found that all of a sudden she had this new audience that she didn't have before, and maybe a lot bigger audience, frankly, for wildlife painting. And I think when she went down that road, I don't know. I'd have to talk to Julie to know. And I don't, I've never had occasion to try to talk to Julie Bell. But if I did, I would ask her if this is what happened. Is you did some wildlife paintings because you thought it'd be fun or interesting, and then it kind of took off and took a life of its own, and so she sort of recreated her art career as a wildlife artist after years of doing predominantly fantasy art. And I mean, they still do some, comic book informed fantasy art as well, of course. I don't know if Boris, I don't know how active he is. You can, if you notice anything on their site, Maria, you might comment, but I think most of the paintings you're going to find are dated quite some time ago. And as I say, I don't know how active Boris is anymore. He's up there. I don't know how old he is, but I'm thinking he's at least 10 years older than Julie. Not that 73 or whatever would be all that old in this day and age. To be honest, they are not top tier. The wolves are rather good. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Oh yeah. I mean, okay, I'll check that out, Max. Ivan Shishkin. Okay, cool. Let me see what we got here. Huh. A lot of landscapey stuff. Yeah, I mean, I will say he's really, really good. But man, the problem for me is, okay, well, I'll take back what I was about to say. I was going to say, this is so photoreal looking, you might as well take a photo. But this guy was painting in the late 1800s, so back then maybe we didn't have color photography anyway. So yeah, I mean, amazing. Golly, this guy's really good. But it's not really wildlife, of course. It's more landscape, forest and stuff. Julie Bell. I do think she's top tier. I have to say, I'm looking at some of these babes she paints, and it's just like they're sensual and they're athletic and they're colorful, vibrant. Where the heck are her wolves? I'm trying to find her wolf pictures. That's kind of stupid. There we go. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Jeez. Okay, 41. Wow, so he's 80 years old. Wow. I'm wowing at the wolves. My gosh. Julie, Julie, Julie. Unbelievable work. Just great. Just fantastimodo. Just absolutely freaking fantastimodo. B key. No, if I was gonna completely reboot my life and career, um, to a degree, I would probably find myself doing um, painting, maybe wildlife painting, that type of stuff. For sure. For sure. Not great at it. Really, you think they're that different? I always thought it was amazing how much Julie's stylistically looked like Boris's. I mean, I'm sure he influenced her. Right. Yeah, I'm sure I could learn a lot from. I've never really tried. I mean, I only started working with oils just a few months ago, so. But I'm sure I could learn a lot from both of those guys. Let's just put it this way, their paintings don't tend to get muddy. Yep, there's no accounting for taste, as they say. And to be fair, since I was raving about Frazetta, um, in many ways, Frazetta's stuff doesn't quite work for me anymore. It's like John Buscema. I mean, when I was in high school, jeez, I was all about John Buscema as far as comic book art goes. Way preferred Buscema over, like Jack Kirby or, you name it, Neil Adams. But today, especially after the last couple of years, kind of delving into animation and actually doing more with it as far as you know art and cartooning and stuff. The mystique that I used to feel towards Buscema it's kind of gone. I mean, it's like really gone. It's just not there anymore. I find his art kind of boring. Clean and crisp, definitely. Yeah, you can tell in the first 2 seconds who painted it out of them too. Well, I would agree with that, Max, mainly from the vantage point that I find there's a certain stiffness in Boris's paintings that I just don't see as much in Julie's that gives his away. So it's not a good tell, it's kind of a bad tell. But, you know, It's still great stuff. I mean, come on. The guy's amazing. Whoops. Now, I'm going to say I might not be going that much longer because I can feel myself starting to mentally check out a little bit. So, I don't know how useful this has been today for you guys to watch, but I'm doing my best. Everything's in motion. Motion, motion, motion. Flip. Boom, boom. N key. Boom. Now, I might have to make a correction here. Let me look here. Yeah, that's too small. I mean, too thin, I guess you'd say. Boop, 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 doop. Yeah, that needs to be more like that. Hello. Jack. Boom. Alright, B key. She overuses ornaments, and he does better shading. Now, wait a second. Hold on. I might have to disagree with you here. Boris and Julie official website. So I'm looking at their website. Where are all the paintings? Okay. Boris prints. Let's look at the Boris prints. Huh. Yeah, okay. So I'm looking at the Boris prints, and now I'm looking at the Julie prints. You know what's standing out to me? Other than the fact that well, I'm not going to say what I was about to say because that didn't make sense. But yeah, I'll stand by my assessment that the characters in the paintings for Boris look more stiff to me. They look like a posed photograph that the guy then painted. However, I do agree with you that as far as shading goes, what I'm seeing is that Julie is her dynamic range, or her range of, let's call it quality for lack of a better word, is wider than Boris. In other words, she either nails it or she's not quite there, whereas Boris is more consistent. So, yeah, are you in I'm echoing Maria's question. Are you in Finland too? We all want to know where you are, Max. Max, tell us where you are. Max? Come on, Max. Come on now. No one's going to visit you at home. Maria, I don't think Max is going to tell us. I think it's a big secret. Big secret thing. Boom. 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 I got to close these shapes so they fill. Well, what time is it? 9:15? Val went off to bed a little while ago. I wonder if she's going to be popping up again. Because I want to see my love. 1, 2, 3. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. I think Max had been. Yeah. Yeah. When he said BB, which I guess means bye-bye, yeah, that was it, baby. He's gone. Elvis has left the building. So we'll just have to get over it. We'll just have to get over it. Boom, 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 boom. That's a tween. Hey, Yvette, how you doing? Yvette's here, and Riva Arvizo, which I seem to remember Riva's name from maybe some. You guys haven't missed much. I've been kind of ranting about deep esoteric things that probably are very boring. However, we're having a bloody good time here. We're having a good time contemplating the cosmos and drinking martinis, by the way. And how's the book stuff going, Yvette? You know, Valerie finished her first book. She finished 2 drafts of it. And rather than do a 3rd draft yet, she decided to divert. So her first book was this really, really kind of dark and dramatic zombie thing, and then the one she's writing now is it's more of a fantasy thing that involves dragons and elves, but it's modern. It's a modernized. It's kind of like what you do, actually. Come to think of it, Yvette, where it's a fantasy situation, you know, like vampires and things like that, but placed in an urban, modern setting. So. Uh-huh. I'm reading your comment, Nagut, Nagut. Yep, I did too, but like I said, I shoplifted mine, so a fact I'm not proud of. Not at all. Not happy about that. Actually, what happened was, maybe I've told this story here before, so if I have, sorry for being boring. But what happened was I was shoplifting so much, and it was so easy, that I decided, I actually remember this, I reached a place where I said to myself, if I don't stop doing this, I'm going to be tempted to move on to bigger things in terms of theft. I'm not kidding. This all went through my mind. I'm in the store, and I grabbed a couple things, and I said to myself, you know, I remember thinking, I think they see me. I think I'm busted here. But I'm going to walk out of the store anyway. Because if I'm busted today, I want to get busted. Because that's going to force me to quit doing this. And that's what happened. I remember the guy walked out of the store and said, "Sir, did you pay for those things?" This has been a long time ago, folks. This was when I was 15 years old. Kindle Vella. Yvette, is that like a platform or something for authors, or am I completely missing the boat there? Coming in late to the story. I'll just start now. That doesn't look like that was inked very well. Well, I guess it was. Other than if you want to complain about these little hiccups. So if Valerie shows up, then I'll probably sign off and go hang with her for a bit. So usually, okay, so it's Amazon's new cereal platform. Ah, okay, gotcha. Because Amazon probably owns Kindle now, I bet, right? Let's see. I think I'm going to stay with this direction. So you say you like it. Does that mean it's easy to work with, or does that mean you're making, you're selling books? Because actually, your experience is kind of interest, just because at some point here before too long, Val's going to be. Now, she's leaning towards actually going the traditional route in terms of seeking publishing, but, who knows? You never know what you're going to bump into out there. And it may turn out that self-publishing is, you're making bang. Okay, I'm glad to hear it. That's really cool. Super cool. Maybe when Val gets her book out, if you think it's good, you can recommend it. Or whatever. I mean, the thing I'll say about Valerie's book, before she started writing it, she had, I mean, I had no idea what to expect. And I just remember, I mean, again, I probably told this story here before, but basically what happened was she was roughing in the book in longhand, in a notebook. And I kind of walked through the room one day, and there's the notebook. So I'm like, okay, I wonder what she's writing. I knew she was working on this book. And this is the first one she wrote, which is a zombie apocalypse type of situation. And I was really blown away. I mean, in my life as a filmmaker, I've had a lot of scripts come across my desk where people want me to look at their script or critique it, or would I want to make it into a movie, blah, blah, blah. And what I saw in what Valerie had written was better than anything that's ever come across my desk. Like, immediately, viscerally, it sucked me in. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know the characters. It was way head and shoulders better than almost anything that's come across my desk. And I'm going, wow, this is a little weird. I mean, gee, Val, I didn't really know you could write. But I will tell you, you're doing a good job. And unfortunately, I haven't actually read the book yet. She did the first draft, and then she did a complete rewrite on it. And then, as I say, she decided to stop and go ahead and write a comedic urban fantasy. And then after she does that, I guess she's going to come back and do a third draft on the first book, and then at that point it'll be ready to publish however she's going to publish it. So, but yeah, I'm really glad to hear you're making bank. That's really cool, because the goal is always to be able to just do what you love and be who you are and do what you do. Excuse me.
Had a bit of a frog in my throat. I must have been Asher there for just a moment.
Boom. Making bank. Well, now that I've got the score done on the first 4-minute sequence of the show, I may go ahead and I'm actually thinking I probably will go ahead and release the first 4 minutes here on YouTube. The only real caveat being that I probably need to set up like a Patreon. So if people want to support the ongoing effort, they are able to do so. So it's a bit of a milestone. I actually finished the score this morning. And getting through that made it really clear to me that scoring the rest of the show is going to be pretty easy. And it takes, I mean, you know, it takes a certain amount of time for sure, but I don't think it's going to be difficult. I was nervous about the new platform, but when the first book did good, I wrote 7 more, hence my absence. My God, you've written 7 books in how long, girl? That's crazy stuff. I mean, I knew you had several books out there. You know, like not just one or whatever, but how long does it take you to write a book? Are you on the, yeah, that's my question. Yvette, how long does it take you to write a book? 6 months? Okay, that's what I was going to guess. I almost said, are you on the 6-month plan? I actually started to say it, and then I didn't finish my sentence. Yeah, that's okay. That's a good clip. That's definitely a good clip. Boom. Well, that kind of speaks back to the whole idea of that I keep postponing of crowdfunding and stuff like that. I mean, the idea is to be able to just every day, what do you do? What are you going to do today? Well, I'm going to write, animate, voice, and score cartoons. That's what I'm going to do. That's just my little life that I lead. That's the goal. And I look forward to actually doing just that. Now, at the same time, to be fair, I have a client that I did, well, quite a bit for, actually. About 10 years ago, I did, you know, a bunch of web development for her and a bunch of photography. Designed her logo. Blah, 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 blah. Calls me up out of the blue. Says, Dave, I miss the way we worked together back in the day. Been dealing with the marketing funnel. Been dealing with different advisors that are telling me how I should run my business, and I try to implement these things, and I spend a bunch of money, and it kind of works a little, but basically, I don't know. Just want to get back to my kind of core drivers in business. And what I remember was when we worked together, you know, we did some good stuff and it was fun. It was fun. So I'm like, okay. No, it looks like in the month of January. So my point being that I'm not doing just animation, but I'm definitely moving in that direction. But in this case, you know, I got an old friend / client who really needs a complete facelift of her entire selling and marketing system, program, blah, blah, blah. So that'll be taking up a bit of time in January. Looking at, hey Tom, didn't see you there, buddy. You wrote 7 books. Oh, okay. So Yvette says, no, idiot. I didn't say it takes me 6 months to write a book. It takes me 6 months to write 7 books. Jeez. Yeah, this is the longest night of the year. The solstice, baby. Absolutely. Daylight begins. I'm with you, Maria, man. I tell you, I hate daylight savings time. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I used to hate daylight savings time. Now I hate just the change. It's like, just leave it on one or the other. I don't care, but just leave it. I am not a fan. It must be a climate change thing, because it seems to me like the days get even darker than they used to be. Am I insane? I think I am. Okay, this is a one frame tween, so I don't really have to nitpick these fingers too much. So don't think I'm being a complete slop hog here. I am being a complete slop hog, but the fact is it doesn't matter, because this is one frame. It's going to blitz by so fast you don't even know what happened. So not trying to be Mr. Sloppy or anything, but I do want to recognize that sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't. So okay, all fair. Let me see how this is playing, folks. I like it. I like it. Muy mucho. And since I'm having nothing but fun, same time, doesn't matter where you are on the planet. Huh. Yeah, you know, Tom, there's really no reason well, I don't know. Let me think about that one. Actually, I don't know if I think that's such a great idea. You do need a way to gauge the relative difference between the time in two locations. I think, does that really matter? So if it's it really doesn't matter. You're right. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters, I mean, it would just be the adjustment of getting used to the fact that you're getting up at, whatever, 3 a.m. or whatever, which is the time that used to be 8 a.m. or that type of thing. So you just have to, yeah, just one time all around the world. I like it. I like it. I think it's a great idea. Let's do that. Let's get a hold of the UN or whoever it is we need to get a hold of, and let's tell them that we've decided that we want to switch the whole bloody system to Universal World Time, UTC. That would not work. It would be dark in the afternoon in some places. No, it wouldn't. You bet. I'm going to give you. I want to give Yvette the opportunity to retract her last statement. Okay, Yvette, I really want you to think about what you just said, because I don't think what you just said made sense. What would change is that when it is afternoon and it's not dark, but it's afternoon, you would look at the clock and the clock would say, for example, 2 a.m. or, 14 hours. Right? So it's just a labeling problem. It's a problem of how you label the current time of day that you get up, go to bed, eat supper, whatever. It's purely a labeling problem. Because the afternoon is still the afternoon, silly. Military time. Yvette, did I offend you? You kind of went silent there, kiddo, so I hope not. I'm just having fun with this. Yeah, military time, like 24-hour time, whatever. No, I think it's true. It could be that, the additional difficulty, of course, would be that you need some sort of framework for converting in your mind to the fact that somebody else across the world for whom it is the same time, is actually experiencing a completely different time of day. Evening versus morning or whatever. So, in that sense, our current framework seems to work pretty well. Because I can say to, my friend in Finland, what time is it for you right now? And that would go the way of the buffalo if we did it your way, Tom. It would go the way of the American bison. Gone forever. Gone forever. Gone forever. Gone forever. Boo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo-doo. Alright, I don't know why I'm drawing mouths on, Oh, there's Yvette again. Meaning 1 p.m. would be daylight in one place and dark somewhere. Yes, exactly. That is true. That is true. 1 p.m. or if it's 24-hour time, then 1,300 hours. Yep. Yep. Morning in one time zone, lunch in another. I remember the Concorde. That was a pretty craft. I don't know what. I must have missed something because I'm not sure what brought on the Concorde. Comment? I remember the, back when the disaster movies were a thing. I remember the Concorde. You had Airport 75, Airport 77, Airport the Concorde, blah, blah, blah. Not the greatest movies ever, by the way. Too many sonic booms and fuel usage.
I suppose that would be true.
Let me turn off my pencil test. Let's see how this is feeling. Well, it's definitely going to be way, way, way the heck better than the old version of this shot. So, there we go. I'm liking it. Boom, 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 ba-doom. Boom, ba-doom, ba-doom, boom, boom. Yeah. Asher's got some wrinkles all over his face. I don't think that's too bad. It's not a disgrace. I hope he's not in a hurry, 'cause I don't want to race. But if you force me to do it, I guess it'll be a chase. Yep, quick and dirty rhymes, baby. Oh, fast travel. Yeah, I think that the trend in fast travel coming, soon is going to be back to frictionless trains, basically. Hypersonic flight under development? I mean, we could do, I mean, even with magnetic fields, you can get pretty much frictionless rail. So, I mean, pretty much a thing. If we can get the if we can get superconductors at room temperature, which we're kind of there, but there's still some tweaking to do, improvement, but we're at the point where we've got superconductivity at basically room temperature. So that means you can have levitation, which is quite cool. And if you can have levitation, that makes ostensibly frictionless subways, you know, long distance rail or whatever, a little more viable maybe, right? Boop 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 boom. Yeah. Look like a stork. Yeah, I remember that. Didn't it kind of go like, it was kind of like this? I mean, that was like the shape of it. I vaguely remember. So that, did that plane ultimately fail because it was just too costly in fuel, or what was the downfall of the Concorde? I wonder. Partial vacuum, so less air resistance. Superconductors, cold fusion, tunnel, tubes for traveling. Yep. Yep. You can pretty well accomplish similar things with magnets, but, you know, I just don't know really what the state of the technological art is in that department at the moment. Boo-doo-boo-ba-doo-doo. Too costly and restricted airspace because of the noise. Oh. Because of the old sonic booms or something? I guess people don't like the noise. And if the neighbors don't like the noise, they will shut you down, baby. Shut you down. Oh, come on. I keep accidentally smacking my middle mouse button. Do 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 do. Boo doo boo boo doo doo. Boom, boom. Let's see. Yep, the booms. Traveling at the speed it generates that noise continuously. Yeah, I was gonna say, Tom. Actually, that was what was kind of crossing my mind, is the fact that, look, if you're over the speed limit and it makes a boom, then it should make a boom on an ongoing basis, not just like once in a while. So I would assume the people in the plane can't really hear that, although maybe they could hear it trailing off in the distance to a degree, I suppose. But probably, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're moving away from that sound as well as, so you're losing the amplitude of it, plus you're physically moving away from the direction that the perturbation of the air is taking place. So I assume it'd be quite a lot quieter in the plane than it is for the people around the plane. Or on the ground, whatever. Is that right? Am I understanding this correctly? Okay. We're almost down to just a couple. I'm going to actually turn the smoothing down. Maybe we'll just turn it off for the moment and see how that feels. I'm making such large sweeping strokes that I don't really think I need the smoothing on. You'd be outrunning the sound. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Do 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 do. That's what I figured. Okay, a little bit of a stupidity there. Well, I got Blender 3 running on my laptop. Pretty sad. It runs perfectly fine under Linux on my cheapo laptop. And it blows missing DLL errors on Windows. Not altogether surprising, but when you've been around the block with Blender as long as I have, 21 years now, you kind of get used to the various hiccups that occur when new releases come out. I mean, the truth of the matter is, Blender 2.5 took 10 years to kind of get right. And by the time they finally got it right-ish, and then it was time to completely revamp the whole thing again, and that became 2.8. So, there you go. Do-do-do-do-do-do. That's the Blender story. But, having said that, Blender 3 does look like quite the tour de force. Quite the tour de force. Yeah, I mean, I actually have 4 or 5 different versions of Blender on my system. Everything from 2.28, believe it or not, which goes back about 20 years, to 2.49, 2.79, 2.83A, or I'm sorry, 2.81A, 2.93 long-term support, and now version 3. They each have their own quirks, and there's things I still like about the much more crude modeling in you know, pre 2.5 Blender. Okay, did that head? Obviously, I didn't follow the line very well, but it probably doesn't matter. Nope, it doesn't matter. I was correctamundo. I was correctamundo. What time is it? 9:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Whoops, I'm in the wrong layer. Or level, I should say, if you want to use the correct nomenclature. Well, I watched Hercules the other day. It was a real slice. Pretty weird. If you look at the pencil tests for Hercules, of the actual Hercules character, the pencil tests on that show had a lot of appeal, and basically the appeal, what is it, Alt F? Oh, I've got the wrong. I better save my work. Control S. Maria, where the heck are you? You haven't been reminding me to save my work. Okay, that's my solo key. And if you guys can believe this right now, I am literally, yeah, Disney Hercules, yep. I am literally, can someone remind me, does anyone remember what the hotkey is to go to this like full screen mode? Because I reached over and hit a key, and well, yeah, thanks Maria. It's a little late there. Fortunately, I haven't had any crashes, but I don't know how to get out of full screen mode. I am in full screen mode. I have no idea how I got there. Now, tilde is the, at least for me, tilde is the solo. That solo's a layer. That's hilarious. Well, I saved my work, so if I have to, I'll just have to do something more radical to get out of the pickle I've gotten myself into. But for now, my basic philosophy is, who cares? Because I can still keep going. So, ain't gonna let it get me down. Whoops, that was a sucky line right there. I just heard a noise, I think. That might have been the lovely and gracious Valerie. And if it is, well, I might be bailing on you good people. I might be bailing. She has a weird sleep schedule, so it's usual for her to actually crash out like around 7 o'clock or something and then be back up later. That is a very strange schedule she has. Boom. Control plus control tilde. No, not for me. Control tilde does I've got it set up so tilde solos a layer and then control tilde turns all the layers back on. So sorry about that. It's my fault because I don't have the standard hotkeys going on here. So the world will keep turning. But the stuff I hit was okay, so Alt F. It's Alt F. There we go. Shoo-wee. That was just a little bit stressful there, wasn't it? Okay. So there's that.
The poor and the hungry won't feed themselves.
Okay. So this pose is going to be assisted by the plastic tool. So now the other thing is on my view, reset the view. Alt 0, huh? Okay. I can live with that. So should we deal with color here tonight? I don't know. I'm liking what I see. And escape to exit it. Oh. Alt F. And escape to exit. Yes, very good. Alt F. Okay, that's interesting. Now if I hit Alt F again, Alt F twice also works for getting in and out. So, thank you, sir. All right, so what do we got? Nice, happy, smiley Asher. By gum, we're gonna have to get a palette from somewhere. So why don't we save all of our work? File. Save all. And then probably what we could do is go into the drawings folder and find a recent-ish level of Asher and then just steal the palette from it, right? Why not? Now actually, waiting for the thumbnails there. Now that's Asher right there, so I might come back to that one. I'm just kind of looking for one that is a little more recent, which that one might have been. I don't know. I didn't look very closely, but yeah, let's go back up here. I wish we could, excuse me, scale these thumbnails a bit. I really, really do. Gee. That'll probably work. Okay, so we will just kill that and then steal these colors. Now this really needs to be lighter. And then fill, 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 fill. So do 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 boom. I guess that's okay. I'm gonna have to manually tweak out his beard situation. Yippee. Tweak it out, man. That's what I'm gonna have to do. So there's that. Okay. It seems to me that the trim on the B key, F key. Okay, I'm gonna look at the yeah, hey, see ya, you bet. Yeah, I guess these colors do look right. Just looking on the other screen. Well, worst case scenario is if this palette turned out not to be quite right, it wouldn't matter much because we could always find one that is right and then just sample the colors and then they'd all update. So pretty low risk behavior getting this all colored in. But I am noticing that this little collar situation, or cuff, not collar, seems to be a tad problematic. I keep running into gaps right there. Do 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 do. Lots and lots and lots of little spots that need to be colored. Okay. Oh, come on. Seriously, dude? Really? That's what we're going to do? And it's all because of this little hiccup right here. Fill. Yeah, blame it on me. I guess I've got it set to ignore gaps. I am a gap ignorer at this point in time. Okay, seriously? Come back here. Oops. Okay, we got this. Oh, come on. Really? Really, dude? You're gonna do this twice in a row? Seriously? Wah, 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 wah. F key. Boom, boom. Yeah, I actually do not think these colors are right. It's supposed to be more of a rust color, so I'm gonna have to wind up going through and making adjustments to these colors. And not only that, but I also forgot to fill those babies in. So we'll probably have to do some sampling to dial in these colors after the fact. They're, oh man, I completely missed that. Well, oh dear, oh my. Zoom in, B key. Gotta finish the job. All colored up. Ready for a night on the town. Right on, man. Asher is ready to partay. Partay, baby. Oh, golly. I must say, this is actually the single absolutely the one thing about animation that I just hate. I hate it. Just going through and finding out. It isn't actually doing the ink work where you have to be more meticulous and make sure that you fill the gaps in. It's not that. It's when you go to do the fill operations and then find out over and over again that there's little holes that you missed. It is not my happy place. Not my happy place. Okay, so to be accurate, seriously, this sequence has quite a few color issues that are going to have to be addressed. And even the stick is the wrong color. That's what I was afraid of. Alright, I'm going to stop everything right here. We'll go ahead and save all. Let's look at this real quick. Okay, and of course it's saving, so it doesn't want to let me look. Yeah, wow, that is a wacky old. No wonder the colors are wrong. That's like an ancient picture of Asher from like before his character design was even figured out. So, what do we do? What do we do? Well, if we go back here, this might be the solution right here to the problem. Let's just go Control C, and let's go Control V. Come on. Any old time there, Tahoma. So what I'm doing is I'm just pasting in the picture from Krita so that I can then steal the colors from this drawing and put them in this palette. So our outline colors, that's a pretty good dark charcoal. So I'm going to go ahead and just darken that. His skin was supposed to be that color. And his yellow stuff was supposed to be, well, I got to be careful here. It's actually that color. His garment is that color. That would be his beard thing, but I guess we'll sample that. The stick, I think I used this for the stick. So we'll call, is that the shadow or is that the stick? That's the stick. Okay, I think that did the trick. Oh, forgot his cap. I forgot about his cap. So, was this the cap? I think so. R key. Boom. Yep, there we go. So we'll close that out and that's true, he is planning on going out. They got to go into the village and feed the poor. That's what they do. They feed the poor people. So, boom. Yeah, I know the stick changed volume a little bit. Especially, ooh boy. Let's just address this. Let's just say from the vantage point of let's not be completely dumb. Control C. Go here. Erase. Needs to not be set on selective. Control V. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now we can get rid of our pencil test, I think. And we can actually ramp up the background. Okay, we're definitely going to need some shadows. That's for sure. And we're going to need some lip sync. So, well, it is 10 o'clock 07 actually. I think I'm probably about ready. To call it a night. How long have I've been going for almost 3 hours, you guys. Wow. But I've been working the whole time. It's not like I've been just blabbing. So I'll give myself a little credit for using the time reasonably well. But I feel like I'm running out of gas. The only thing here I want to check, though, I want to actually turn this back on. And what did I say? It was, what is this color? Let me see. It's nothing. Good. This is nothing. This one can be deleted. This is the one that's the, you know, beard or whatever. So, here. I guess I'll go like that. Okay, so now I want to go Control C, Control V. Okay. Do 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 do. Whoops. Do 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 do. Just gotta get these little beards in here. Boo doo boo boo doo doo. Yeah. F key. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to lasso this man's eyebrows. So we're doing freehand mode so that we can go like this. And this. And this. Whoops. Lasso. 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 Boo-doo, boo-doo. There we go. There we go. We'll crop that off and see what we got here. Or, seems like a studio palette would be good to have set up. No, I've never labeled the colors. No, the studio palette, I mean, you guys may have a different opinion, but when I started this project, I did have a studio palette. In fact, I actually had a set of tabs with a bunch of palettes for every character. And long story short is what you find is that palettes kind of tend to evolve anyway. And yeah, long story short is what I found is most effective is to just pull in a TLV level from a recent shot that has the same character, just pull in their level and just steal the palette from there. So, And then, or worst case scenarios, you do what I did here. You just pull out an image of the character and just sample the colors. The whole process takes 1 minute, so it's just not that big of a deal. So, alright. Yeah, I'm pretty much running out of gas, so I think I'm going to call it a night. It's been 3 hours. 2:55:45. So, and now this is appropriate because I think the thumbnail for this YouTube live stream is actually Asher. So, and I just heard Valerie. So, with that, I am going to end my stream, and you guys have been great. It's been fun. Got a lot done. It's been cool, interesting, stimulating conversation. And with that, I will tell you that there will be more later.